Our attendance out in internet land is very high right now. They're waiting. We're good. Let's go live. And you stay classy, WIU.
Yes.
Our attendance out in internet land is very high right now. They're
Oh.
waiting. Oh, wow. All right, so we're live? We're good? Oh, yeah, maybe I ought to turn this off. Okay. You stay classy, WIU. Our attendance out in internet land is very high right now. They're waiting. Oh, wow. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for coming to the second voluntary quarterly meeting, and hopefully you found the first one valuable in terms of information, and you'll find this one as well valuable. And so I'm going to give kind of a brief overview, report, and then allow some of the directors to chime in if they have any questions or things that they want to emphasize as we go throughout. So in terms of general organizational updates, wanted to share with the team that we have hired a new student services director. His name is Mr. Joe Shulo. He comes to us from Riverview Intermediate Unit 6, who was the director of student services and curriculum there as well. He is going to start with us March 28th. As well as another hire that we've made to the administrative team, that being Matt Thomas. He is going to be the new curriculum specialist who's replacing Jackie Ramochek, who left us and went to Hampton Township, correct? I think that's where she went, to Hampton Township. Matt, who's currently the high school principal of Ferndale School District, the high school principal there, he's going to be joining us around March 28th as well. So to round out the curriculum services team, who've had some openings, Dr. Monroe, who announced in the fall that she was stepping down as the assistant executive director, going into an Act 93 position. She is going to become the next instructional designer effective May 26th. So she'll serve as the assistant executive director up through May 25th. And then she'll start her new role here at the IU on May 26th with that. Also need to share, as we did with email, we do have a very important person stepping down and moving on to greener pastures, and that's Mr. Jim Somerville, who has resigned as the Director of Human Resources, and his last day is next Friday. And so, Jim, we thank you for your service. You are going to be sorely missed, and we wish you nothing but the best, from here on out. We wish, and please join me in wishing Jim the very best as he moves on, and looks for other adventures in life to conquer there. Now, we're taking this opportunity to, again, look at the organization and its structure. And so on the board agenda next Tuesday, you will see that we are actually going to eliminate the Director of Human Resources position. And so there would only then be 4 directors that will then serve on to the cabinet. Because instead, also on next Tuesday, you will see that I'm going to recommend a new position known as the Human Resource Specialist that will be an Act 93 position, but not at the director level. And so we have currently advertised that position, and that advertisement ends, I think, the 22nd, I think, Jim. So we are taking applications for HR specialists, and that position is actually going to move into the financial services division. That is going to be then directed, of course, by Mrs. Allison Willis. So that position, the HR specialist, is moving into the financial services. So in a sense, we will only have 5 divisions instead of having 6 divisions there. Power Wednesdays, wanted to share that they start on the 24th of February. And again, that affects support staff, Act 93 folks. That's the concept where we're going to take 16 Wednesdays before, 16 Wednesdays after the summer schedule, where we have off on Friday afternoons, and which means we have to find 32 hours to make up. And we're going to do that through Power Wednesdays. And the concept of Power Wednesdays is that we're going to take that hour and we're actually going to go into using professional learning communities. And so we're going to divide it up actually in a spring semester and a fall semester, kind of like college. And the the spring semester coming up, I'm going to be leading the activities throughout, and we're going to focus on the 7 principles that are going to form the basis of our evaluation system here at the intermediate unit. And so you've seen these posted everywhere. Right now there's 9, but we're going to reduce them to 2. And so it's going to be the WIU 7 principles, because we're IU 7, and it kind of makes more sense to have 7 versus 9. So we're going to be doing a series of exercises all throughout Power Wednesdays in the spring that are going to address those 7 principles that the administrative team have worked together to identify indicators of success, also provided me some advisement to which 7 should be the 7 that we move forward with that. So team, did I miss anything in terms of general organization with that? Okay. Any questions from the audience? It's standing room only for those who are watching on the internet. Okay. All right. So anything on our chat, todaysmeet.com? Nothing yet. Okay. All right. So now let me just briefly give you an overview of state level information. I want to provide you an update on the state budget impasse. There is not a state budget. That is the update. All right, moving on to financial. No, yes, right now there's no budget for 15-16. The governor did talk about the 16-17 budget, but nothing's going to happen until the primaries are over. No one's going to take a stand either way and chance their reelection bid. So the word on the street is it's going to get hot and heavy after April's primaries, and then we'll start seeing movement along the way there. So honestly, that's my update about the state budget impasse. We still don't have any. But in terms of the health of the organization, getting through the impasse, I think Mrs. Willis will agree that we are still in a good place as we were the last quarterly meeting. And what would be maybe the month that we need to start thinking about responding if there's no state budget?
Probably the end of March, beginning of April.
Okay, so end of March, beginning of April. So we'll make sure that we keep you in the loop. As we know information, we'll share information with you. All right. Any questions from the audience about the state budget piece? All right. All right, so now we're going to go through the different divisions. And the first division, financial services, I'm going to ask Mrs. Willis to kind of give a brief overview. This is the time of year where we have to produce a preliminary budget for not only our board to approve, but also to get, in the end of the day, a majority of the districts to approve it at their IU, at their board meetings. But that's only, the general op is only one budget of many budgets that we have at this IU. And it's only the general op that then is voted upon by the school boards that are members of this, or that are the sending districts that are here. So Mrs. Willis, if you could just kind of give us a brief overview of the general op budget for the organization to hear.
Sure. Good afternoon. So this is just, as Dr. Conway said, a brief overview of the general operating budget for 16-17. We operated under different budget timelines this year than we did in the past. Just to catch everyone up to speed, on January 18th, I presented the budget to a joint meeting of the superintendents and the business managers for their review. And then on January 21st, we presented the general op budget to our, we passed it out on the 18th so that there was time for the superintendents and business managers to review it prior to coming in that Thursday and having a joint meeting of everybody to actually give the presentation. And then on January 26th, we presented the general op budget to the board of directors. What that did, instead of in the past, we would have then had the board approve the budget that night. But instead, we're not asking our board to approve the general operating budget until Tuesday, February 23rd. And what that allowed is our districts and our board members and to have the budget for an entire month for them to review ask any questions, present any concerns, get back to us, and then so they could have some discussion in collaboration with their districts before we ask the board to approve it. So on Tuesday, we'll come back to our board meeting and ask the WIU board to approve it. And then through the months of March and April, the general op will go out to the districts to have each individual district approve it. And then I have to submit it to PDE by May 1st. So a little bit of a different timeline this year. And I think that it's worked well. It's given everybody an opportunity, again, to kind of collaborate and ask questions. And feel comfortable with their vote instead of hearing the presentation and voting in the same night. Also, we had some new implemented budget format changes for this year. And the way we restructured the general op budget was under Dr. Conway's direction. We broke it into the divisions. And at the time this was presented to the superintendents and the business officials, we had 6 divisions, those being the Financial Services Division, Human Resource Division, which by the end of the month here will be combined into one, Curriculum Services, Technology and Infrastructure Services, and then Student Services, and the 6th division being the Executive Director. Out of all of those divisions listed, the Student Services, formerly known as the Special Ed, is not included in the general operating budget. And the special ed, or the student services, is then its own budget, which would be special ed, early intervention, Crossroads, Clairview, and those are not approved by the districts. So that was a different format this year, and we think that it worked really well. It really gave us an opportunity to identify the revenues and expenses associated with each program operated in those divisions. So I think it kind of made our operations a little more clear to everybody when looking at the overall budget. Also new with 16-17, we included the special ed core expenses into the general operating budget. Now that probably sounds weird because I just said that special ed is its own budget, not included in general op, but the special ed core is a little bit different. We receive funds from the state that you're allowed to use to offset any type of administrative cost associated with special ed that you don't bill to the districts. So those types of services would be secretarial services included in the administration building that we don't bill directly to a program, or any type of utilities or computer leasing costs that we spend generated from this building that we can't assign just to one program, like is Kiski Emotional Support or Mount Pleasant Learning Support. So in the past, those expenses have always been included in a special budget. So what we did this year is we moved everybody associated with that revenue stream into the general operating budget, and we moved the revenue as well into the general operating budget. So again, it gave the districts a clearer picture of what it takes to operate the IU. Another example of positions included in that general operating budget would have been our access services, our access billing services, and our front desk receptionist that are now included and show up under financial services division into general operating budget, but the revenue stream came from the core. So I think we've got a lot of positive feedback from the new format this year. Positive feedback not only from the districts but from the board members. Like I said, it is a much clearer picture of what it takes to operate the administration of the organization. So we're happy to say this year that we presented a balanced budget to the school districts for a total revenues expenses of about $5.5 million. And the one thing that we do want to highlight is this year we are asking for a decrease in the contributions from our member school districts. In the past, the districts have contributed about $500,000, and this year that is going to decrease to $387,000, which is a decrease of about $122,000. And the reason for that is some of the restructuring that we've done and the consolidation of positions, especially in the core budget, one of those being the event planner that we eliminated during the process of this year's operation. So I believe our districts were pleased. Our goal is in the future to actually eliminate the general operating contribution altogether, so we can basically operate, I don't want to say independently, but we don't need the districts to fund our general operations, our general operations are funded by programs and services that we sell. So everyone's paying for what they use and not necessarily making a general contribution when they're not necessarily using our programs. So I'm not going to go into the details of the revenues and expenses because that can get kind of boring, but I think I highlighted the major points, the changes, and the impact to our districts.
So to put it in perspective, of that $300,000, what percent of that is our overall budget? Because our budget's how many
About
millions?
$46 million. So this overall budget is, only $5 million of about $46 million in total operations.
So it's very
a small percentage.
But yet it has the largest scrutiny, from the districts. And also, not all districts pay the exact same amount of money either. It's all based on ADMs. And so, for instance, for our larger districts such as Hempfield, they would be paying approximately how much towards their contribution?
Their contribution is approximately $80,000.
Versus a Menneson would be about 3,000.
Right.
Right, so there's a wide variety there. And so, one of our goals is to, over time, decrease that to where they're not paying any general op, and they're truly just paying for the services that they're purchasing. So they're getting what they're paying for. And then there's less reliance then on the districts to have to then receive that general contribution to the general op. So, all right. Any questions from the audience that you might have about budget? All right. Well, thank you very much for doing that. I don't see anything on our chat line, not yet. So I'll take that back now, I guess. But hopefully you found it that just maybe not interesting, but at least educational in terms of how the IU works and so on when it comes to budgets and so on. All right. So to finish up financial services, I do need to recognize that PAIU, which is the Pennsylvania Association of Intermediate Units, we work together as an organization of the 29 intermediate units. And one of the pushes this year for this budget and future work is around early intervention, which is a huge service that we provide, and we've been very, very successful due to the leadership of Brandy and Dr. Monroe in that area. And the state is looking to us as leaders in this field. And so first I'll recognize Mrs. Willis, because she has been asked to be a co-chair of an EI work group that is going to be working specifically with PDE and OCDEL, the Office of Childhood Development, so yada, 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 and working with them on a new formula of how this is going to be funded in the future. So not only is Allison co-chairing that entire committee, Brandy Benikoski is also part of the work group that is going to be lobbying and discussing at the state level. So thank you very much for your service at the state level. And I bring that up because that's goal number 2 of the organization, is to become a state level player. So these are 2 examples of where we're going with this organization and what the possibilities are. So thank you for taking the extra duties on to put IU7 out in front of others so they can see the great work that we're doing. All right. Anything else from financial services that you'd like to share? All right. Human resources, Mr. Somerville. First, let me share this, and then if you have anything to add, you may add to this. One of the things I wanted to mention in human resources, we've been working very closely with Source for Teachers. And as we all are aware across the state, fill rates are not where they need to be because there is a shortage of substitutes, from teachers to nurses to custodians and so on. And we have really put the pressure on Source for Teachers to increase the pool of people for teachers and so on and so forth. And so one of the results of that kind of pressuring and pushing was a hiring night that they held on February 3rd that had close to 40-some people show up. And so we're hoping that that is going to increase the pool of substitute teachers as we go into the spring. And so just want to, shout out to Jeff and his team for the hard work that they had a great evening. Everything was very organized. People that came in received an orientation, and then they could fill out their paperwork. Chris Constable also worked the fingerprinting that evening. So, she stayed in the evening to fingerprint people. So I think that was a very successful step forward, in our relationship with Source for Teachers and Mission One. Also, I can't emphasize enough, we are in deep need of substitute custodians. And so if you have family members, if you have kids that you want to put to work, we need substitute custodians. So we highly encourage them to contact Jim Somerville up through Friday, and then after that it'll be me, and then we'll determine after that. But we are in desperate need of people to substitute, especially in the custodial area. So if you have anybody in mind, have them reach out to us, because we definitely need the personnel for that. And it's taxing on those who are working full-time here, having to pick up the load and with the shortage of substitutes. Mr. Somerville, do you have anything to add to HR?
Not a whole lot, other than my last day will be next Friday, the 26th. I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank the WIU board for the opportunity to work here. I want to thank my fellow cabinet members here. It's been a real treat to work with these folks over the past 7 years, and all the folks here in the room and many other people out there across the county who work for the IU. I also, I don't have to try to suck up to Dr. Conway at this point, but I do want to leave everybody with these comments. I've worked with him since July. I think he's putting the organization on a better path. I can tell you that the decision to leave was a difficult decision for me, but I think at this time it's the right one. I'm not looking in the rearview mirror. I'm looking out the windshield at my future, and I'm also considering the future of the intermediate unit, and I think the intermediate unit's in very good hands. During the time that I labored over my decision to leave, Dr. Conway was both very generous with his time and very sincere in his counsel to me about me leaving and where that might take me, and how the organization will move forward. So I just wanted to thank him publicly. My division is going to be absorbed by the Financial Services Office, and I think Allison Wills will do a bang-up job, just like she does in the business office at this time. So I just want to thank everybody. It's been a great 7 years. I'm looking forward to moving on, and I wish everybody the best.
Thank you, Jim. Very well said, Jim. All right. Okay. All right, so let's move on to student services. Again, we recognized Brandy earlier with her appointment to the work group. So again, congratulations there. I just wanted to give an update. We did have a Clearview School purchasing information night that maybe some of you read about into the paper. We had a very successful evening. We had approximately 11 out of the 17. I'm looking to Eric because I asked Eric to count for me. It was, I think, 11 out of the 17 districts sent representatives, and I think we had a total of 42. So, out of a total of 153 possible board members. Now, they weren't all board members. There were superintendents, business managers there. It wasn't a bad turnout, and it really did allow for districts to discuss nothing but Clearview and the potential of each district investing money into the purchasing of the building. I think it was a very positive evening. I have not received any correspondences from any of the districts since then in terms of yes or no, whether or not they're going to be purchasing. But I think it's really important for all of us to realize that if zero decide to invest into the building, we're still going to run Clearview. It's a good lease. It was well negotiated by the team prior to me coming here, and our new solicitor, Carl Beard. And so we're very comfortable with moving in the same direction that we are if the districts do not decide to purchase the buildings. I don't have any impression yet because I'm giving it until April 1st for the districts to have that chance to make their decisions on their own. And then April 2nd, I'll know whether or not we're going to close down the work group to those who are going to invest and then move forward with that. So a very positive night. I thought the press handled the issue very well, represented our words very well, and I think at least it put people that didn't know how Clariview worked kind of in a better understanding. And the bottom line is this: the districts are going to pay for that building, whether they buy it or if we continue to rent it. And our push was, why not have that rent stay in the county versus going to somebody out in California? That was the main push. So then that way the districts could use that money as they see fit, instead of a company out in California being able to use it to reinvest into other buildings that wouldn't benefit us. So again, due to the budget impasse, this isn't the best time for districts to lay out, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a building and become landlords, because that is very difficult to have to defend to their taxpayers. So if they don't do it this year, we'll revisit it again next year, and we have until 2019, correct? 2019 to revisit it. After 2019, we can't revisit it. So you never know what's going to happen up through April 1st. or what may happen in years that follow with that. Okay, any questions about the Clariview School purchase? And I have questions here on the back chat, so I'll be answering them here in just a second. Actually, this is the next issue here. The next issue is district-hosted classrooms, IU teacher and classroom assistants discussion. I think I shared in the first quarterly that, districts will have these discussions of whether or not to take back classrooms, as well as teachers, as well as classroom assistants, which means that districts could take them back. They could take them all back. They could close some of them. There's a lot of different variables. And right now, publicly, the only one that I can share that has indicated that they are taking classes back would be that of Kiski area. Through a board motion on Monday, they voted to notify the administration here that they were planning to take classes back. Unfortunately, I do not have the details or the scope of what that transfer of entity is going to be. We have approximately, Tina, how many classrooms at Kiski right now? 36. So it could be all 36. It could be half of them. It could be 3 of them. I will not know any more information until tomorrow when I'm meeting with their superintendent. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information to share at this time, simply because I'm not sure of the scope of what's going to be taken back. I also have 2 other districts that I can't publicly name at this point in time, but there are 2 others that are going to be taking some classrooms back as well. Again, don't know the full extent of the scope of that, but until I have all of the pieces in line in terms of who's taking back and how much, I am not going to be able to communicate what the next step is. So you just have to be patient. And I know that's tough because everyone wants to know what's going on, and I appreciate the questions that were on the back channel in regards to this issue. What I can say is that Kiski's board has voted to take designated classrooms back. I won't know the details until I officially have been communicated to in regards to the scope of that transfer of entity. And then the other 2 districts, obviously they need time to figure out where direction they're going in, and that's kind of part of the budget process. They've received their budget numbers, and so as they're looking at their budgets, they're making decisions and have been in close contact with us, but nothing public that I can share, at this point in time. I did have a question on the back channel about, do you think the districts are taking back their rooms due to the lack of having to buy into the building? And it's really 2 totally separate issues. Districts taking classrooms back really has nothing to do with the purchase of Clariview. The purchase of Clariview purely is for a landlord agreement that would work with the IU. really has nothing to do with the programming that's going on at the building and so on. Because like I said earlier, the districts have to pay for that building either through tuition or if they buy the building. And if they do pull all of the kiddos out of Clairview, which we're not anticipating because our numbers continue to rise, that's still a building that we have to pay rent, and through the general op, the districts would have to pay for that. So it's really two different issues, not related whatsoever. So I appreciate Sam, whoever Sam is out in internet land, who posted those questions. Really appreciate that for you. Okay, so any questions about that particular issue, about the district-hosted classrooms, the Kiski issue, and then any other district-specific issues? Okay, Dr. Monroe, do you think I covered everything with that? All right, Mrs. Willis, from the financial piece of that, do you think I covered it at all? Okay. All right, anybody else need to add anything? Okay. If you want some good reading, go onto the internet and look up transfer of entity in Pennsylvania, and you'll see the complexity that's involved when districts take back their classrooms. And from having to create furlough pools and districts having to hire from that furlough pool, it becomes quite complex. So we want to make sure that we communicate very specifically what we can communicate, and that it's very clear when it's communicated. Hopefully that you have found that the communication has been here in the last few months. All right. Anything else from Student Services, Dr. Monroe, that you would like to add?
I just have a couple of good things.
All right. Oh, good. Thank you.
Not questionable things, but just say just a couple good things that happened. First of all, the Special Olympic Winter Games were taking place at Seven Springs, and we had 35 athletes from Westmoreland County, 3 in alpine, 1 in cross country, and 31 in snowshoe. I just thought that was very interesting. In alignment with being recognized by the state and probably even nationally, Crossroads was recently featured in a publication by RF Technologies for their use of a Help Alert RFID system, which, you know, you've all seen the commercials about help, I fallen, I can't get up. It's kind of the same principle. Every employee has a Help Alert button, and there are certain members of the team who, if a teacher or the custodian or anyone presses their button, it alerts them and tells them where, so that no one has to speak. So if a student is starting to escalate, maybe before anything physical happens, everyone can come and try to de-escalate the situation. So we were recognized in a national publication, and then there's a new AEDY, which is Alternative Education for Disruptive Youth, team at the Department of Ed, and they found the article and called us, so we were also recognized by them for having that technology in our system. As we mentioned before, early intervention, February is their favorite month. February is the month of transition, and what that is all students that are eligible to enter kindergarten in the fall and are in our early intervention program are required to have a meeting with our early intervention staff and the school district. So they are conducting approximately 400 individual meetings for all of these students that will be possible to enter kindergarten. So if you see no one in EI around, that's where they are. They are out in the districts. And then finally, the student services staff is preparing and getting ready for the extended school year in July for those students that are eligible for ESY.
Excellent. That's all good news. Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. And so for the curriculum services piece, just want to share our E-Academy numbers continue to rise. You know, just to put it in perspective, we offer we have 2,409 course enrollments by 526 different students. So that's pretty incredible, the number of kiddos that we're impacting and the number of courses that they're taking. And also, I'm really happy to see that we've kind of instituted a Commission for Gifted Learning series, and and maybe Mr. Hamill can talk a little more about that. But, that's one area, that a lot of times gets overlooked by the districts in terms of, providing services for gifted learners as well. And this IU has kind of taken that on to provide services for districts. So, Mr. Hamill, is there anything that you want to add to the curriculum services piece?
Sure. If anything, we're a diverse division. Lots that goes on and lots of things that are happening. And most importantly, right now, we've, over the past, I guess near 4 or 5 months now, we've sort of worked to keep ourselves moving despite some of the holes that we've had in our division, some of the shortages that we've had. We're super excited about having Matt Thomas join us in late March, early April. Excited about what he's going to bring to us. Part of what we've had to really do is keep our programs running. E-Academy doesn't stop operating because we've lost some people along the way. Programs don't stop happening. We have coming up this in March, early March, we have our academic quiz, which is a huge event here hosted by the IU. We have almost every school district in the county involved in that this year, which is a first for us. We have the Connect STEM Challenge, which is happening in early April, another major event with nearly 200 students from across the county who will be involved in a STEM challenge that we're hosting, and actually doing the event out at the old Sony plant, which is now part of the WCCC Advanced Technology Center. So again, we're organizing all of these events and keeping things going, but at the same time, rebuilding and rethinking our vision of where we're headed and what our goals are for our future. An enormous part of what we're working to develop is our Center for Innovation and Creativity, which has been an exciting development for us and has led to some terrific relationships and partnerships already. In fact, just today met with individuals from both Seton Hill and St. Vincent as far as developing some partnerships with pre-service teachers, some workshops with them, and some graduate level courses that we would do with them. So exciting components that are starting to come about as a result of that. We've developed a terrific relationship with Remake Learning, which is a regional institution that works with grant makers in our region, the Grable Foundation and others, to help make some of these things happen that we're attempting to do in our region. Developing those partnerships, developing those relationships is all part of our future in developing new programs and new endeavors, and to go along with that goal of becoming a statewide player and to be a leader in these endeavors. We are unique. We're one of only 3 IUs in the state of Pennsylvania that have some of the pieces that we do in place. So the level of STEM initiative that we have. So we are excited that we lead that in our region in partnership with our other IUs in the region as well. So more to come, more to put out there. I'm sure by the next meeting that we have here, the next quarterly meeting, we have some of our new folks on board. We're excited to see what some of those new projects will be.
All right. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I appreciate that. All righty. Okay, and then the last division that we'll go over, and then we'll go over miscellaneous and take any questions people might have, would be that of technology and infrastructure services. One of the things that I wanted to share with you is that we've been working with Jim being the leader of this on our all hazards plan. And taking a look at, different scenarios that occur, what are the steps that we need to take as an organization to make sure that everyone is safe, students, staff, and so on. And a lot of different scenarios that we have been going over. Eventually what will happen then with Jim's transfer, Jim leaving us, I'm going to be taking over the safety committee. And then we also are going to begin incorporating the all hazards plan ownership to that safety committee. So then it kind of serves as a dual purpose with that. So there's a lot of different things that we're going to be doing with the all hazards plan, such as practice drills, practice scenarios, just things to keep things in line with security. And we also, just recently had an incident that required, our attorney as well as the state police to be involved. And, we did a lessons learned as we sent out to the administrative building staff. There are some things that we want to make sure that we're constantly doing, such as making sure that you're wearing your IDs at all time. At the district level, if you have one there or wherever you're assigned, you should always have your ID with you at any time. Also, we want to make sure that our procedures here at this building specifically, that we're escorting all of our visitors, to and from the waiting room. And so we do not want people just roaming the hallways and so on. And also, our lessons learned was making sure that confidential information's not sitting out on desks overnight while you're not present. So it's really important that you lock that stuff up. If it's confidential, you want to make sure that you have a secure place, that it can't be, viewed mistakenly by anyone that might be in your work area and so on. So you're going to see some other security type improvements that we're going to have. One being we're looking at the configuration of the front desk area, because right now it's not conducive to controlling the ebb and flow of traffic that comes in and out of the blue rooms as well as back into the cubicle area. So we're looking at getting quotes of how to reconfigure that and make everybody safer. We're also looking at some technology that when visitors come in, they scan their driver's license, which then helps produce a badge that says visitor with their name on it. And just again, so people can identify who they are, where they're supposed to be in the building, and so on. So you'll see more things, again, associated with the all hazards plan, as well as a recent event that made us, think about, all right, what can we do to improve the security of the building and just general safety with that. Lastly, with technology and infrastructure, we're at capacity here in the auditorium for those who can't see, but we know that this auditorium needs to be looked at in terms of some structural things. We still have the big caution sign. It's a little smaller of a stop sign, but there's some structural things that the board has asked me to look into in terms of what are we going to do with this auditorium. So we've had some contractors come out and look, but we also have to have the support of the districts to be able to do anything that would cost major dollars with that. So again, just something as an FYI, because every time people come in here, they still see that caution sign, and people want to know, are you going to do anything about it? And we are doing something about it. It just takes a little bit of time to get quotes and put things out for bid, and also have the support of the boards as well. So, Mr. Eric, is there anything that you want to add from the technology and infrastructure? He was hoping I took all of his topics.
Yeah, you covered most of them. Just wanted to let everyone know that at the board meeting on Tuesday, we're recommending a candidate to fill a vacant custodial position. So currently, we are down 3 full-time positions. 2 are out on medical related issues, and 1 resignation. So we are planning to recommend a candidate to fill one of those on Tuesday. Dr. Conway mentioned about the visitor management system. That has actually been received today, so we're going to begin configuration and deploying that over the next couple weeks. So look for that.
Shout out goes to Billy for making all the IDs that are coming to his attention now. So thank you, Billy.
Lastly, this week we are going to be presenting, we have a vendor booth at the P&C conference in Hershey. We're going to be showcasing the application that John Lohr's been working on and our intern Josh Adams over the past year on an applicant tracking portal where applicants, teachers, custodians, and pretty much, E-Academy teachers, pretty much anybody that is applying for a position, not only at the IU, but potentially as we roll this out to any district. Allows them to upload their clearances, allows us to track those clearances, teacher applications, custodial applications, any information related to the applicant process. So we're going to begin marketing that application statewide, beginning probably next week.
Nice. All right.
Thanks.
Anything else?
That's-
All right,
that's good.
thank you very much. Alrighty, and so now we go to the miscellaneous. Just want to share, you can access the board meeting and its agenda. If you go to schoolboard.wiu.k12.pa.us. In fact, I'm going to send this to everyone. This is my report, and it actually has the information on there. But the Friday before any board meeting, you can see the agenda, not the confidential information that the board receives, HR information, things like that. But you can at least see what's on the agenda the Friday before by just going to that website. Also, I wanted to share that we have 2 foundation events, WIU foundation events coming up. We have on the 17th, which is a Sunday, correct? The bingo event at Rizzo's, and there's all kind of things. And what kind of bags are we playing for? Vera Bradley bags.
Vera Bradley bag,
What?
burger,
Longaberger baskets, yes, and cash, Brighton jewelry, right? That's that stuff. April 17th, yeah, so that's April 17th. So if you're interested in bingo, a good time, good food, I understand. Yes, and I will be modeling some of those things. And evidently, there's a guest caller, too, that's going to be calling the number. So if you have some time, the 17th at Rizzo's. Also, mark your calendars for the Foundation Golf event. It'll be its first annual. The IU used to run it, but this year it has transferred over to the Foundation, and that is Saturday, June 4th at Glengarry Golf Course. And so we'll remind you during the next quarterly meeting, because our next quarterly meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 11th, same time, same station, and so on. All right, and so anything else for the good of the order from the team here? All right, any questions from the audience that you might have about the topics that we reviewed today? Okay. All right, and so from Internet Land, thank you very much for attending. If you have any follow-up questions before we end the taping, just put them into the chat window. I'll make sure that I answer it, because I'll follow up with an email to the whole organization with my report. That way you can see what we talked about. And you can always revisit and watch this meeting again if you so desire with that. So if there are no further questions or any further comments from anyone, thank you very much for attending, and our second voluntary meeting is now concluded. And you stay classy, WIU. Take care and get out. This is when you should have music now playing, Billy.